In this exploration of Disney's Daredevil Born Again, we balance nostalgia with cautious optimism. Can the House of Mouse honor Netflix's gritty legacy? Or will it succumb to its own formulaic pitfalls? As Marvel's street-level hero returns, questions loom. Will the series preserve its noir soul or pivot into sanitized spectacle? Join us as we dissect Disney's revival gambit, a high-stakes dance between fan reverence and corporate ambition. The devil, as they say, is in the details. And in Hell's Kitchen, details are everything. Greetings and salutations, brethren. Welcome to my little part of the interwebs, where I dissect stories with surgical precision and occasional bewilderment when the narrative anatomy defies all logic. Scalpel ready? Back in the early days of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, circa 2012, the MCU faced a dilemma. How to sustain audience engagement during the years-long gaps between blockbuster films. Television offered fertile ground, a medium ripe for world building. Yet Disney lacked both a streaming platform and TV production expertise. Enter Netflix, then a rising titan in the streaming wars. Their alliance birthed Marvel's gritty street-level heroes, Daredevil, Jessica Jones, Luke Cage, and Iron Fist, blending noir aesthetics with superhero grit. The gamble paid off. Netflix saw subscriber surges, critical acclaim, and a fiercely loyal fanbase. But Disney, ever the strategist, eyed grander horizons. While Netflix reveled in its Marvel-fueled success, Disney quietly mapped out a new frontier. Spin-off series like WandaVision, Hawkeye, and Echo that would tether TV storytelling directly to its cinematic universe. The 2019 launch of Disney Plus altered the battlefield. The streaming platform wasn't just a home for nostalgic classics, it was a Trojan horse for Marvel's TV ambitions. Suddenly, Netflix found itself in a paradox, nurturing rival content, funneling viewers towards Disney's shiny new service. The partnership soured. One by one, Marvel's Netflix titles, Daredevil, The Punisher, and the Defenders cohorts, were exiled, leaving Hell's Kitchen dormant. For 6 long years, the streets of Hell's Kitchen fell silent. Fans clung to breadcrumbs. Charlie Cox's Matt Murdock popping up in Spider-Man No Way Home. Vincent D'Onofrio's Kingpin menacing Hawkeye. But these cameos were mere appetizers, teasing a resurrection. The real feast began when Cox and D'Onofrio, armed with fan petitions, relentless social media buzz, and sheer star power, lobbied Marvel Studios to resurrect their characters. Enter Daredevil Born Again, a revival straddling legacy and reinvention. Would it reboot the story, retcon the past, or honor Netflix's beloved canon? The answer, as Marvel often delivers, is a cocktail of both. Set 6 years post Netflix's Daredevil Season 3, the series nods to its roots while embracing MCU continuity. Old foes resurface, alliances fracture, and New York's moral compass, Matt Murdock, grapples with a world reshaped by the blip and the MCU's ever-expanding chaos. Yet this isn't merely Season 4 in disguise. Marvel's promise of changes looms, a loaded term that could mean fresh villains, tonal shifts, or even changing half the cast to better align with a modern audience. The saga of Daredevil's revival mirrors the MCU itself, a blend of fan passion, corporate chess, and narrative reinvention. Netflix's loss could be Disney's gain, provided the narrative isn't sacrificed to the vile gods at modernity's altar. Episode 1 of Daredevil begins with the neon glow of New York City, pulsing like a heartbeat, as Matt Murdock, clad in a sharp suit rather than his crimson armor, locks up Nelson, Murdock and Page with his partners, the ever-resourceful Karen Page and the street-smart Foggy Nelson, played brilliantly by Charlie Cox, Deborah Ann Wall and Alden Henson respectively. Their banter hums with camaraderie and quiet tension, a trio bound by years of shared scars. Their conversation tilts towards Detective Cherry's retirement party, a bittersweet milestone in a precinct hemorrhaging veterans.
30% of the force gone in 2 years,
Karen mutters.
No wonder the city's crawling with vigilantes.
The camera drinks in the skyline, framing New York as a silent brooding witness to the chaos unfolding below. Josie's Bar, a grimy dive steeped in whiskey and regret, hosts Cherry's send-off. In the dimly lit room, new faces emerge. Detective Cherry, a man who has seen enough and decided to call it quits. Detective Kim, Cherry's no-nonsense partner, a hard ass that seems like she isn't far from retirement herself. Kirsten McDuffie, a razor-sharp district attorney trading charged banter with Foggy. A black girl called McDuffie.
Man, you ain't never heard of no black Irish.
Black 80s.
That's right. Who you think invented the Mac Rhea? Lucky Charms? Huh? Sarah Rock Shake?
Right.
Karen, meanwhile, lobs a flirty quip at Matt, who deflects with the grace of a man who's perfected the art of platonic evasion. The camaraderie feels genuine, until a phone call shatters the veneer. Stepping out front, Foggy takes a call that sends his pulse racing. Matt, his senses dialed to superhuman precision, eavesdrops from inside the bar using his selective hearing, and hears that something is wrong. Benny, a client Foggy stashed in his apartment. But now some good-for-nothings are making a racket laying siege to it. Worse, Foggy kept it a secret from Matt, fearing it would reignite his pal's vigilante edge. A futile effort, given that Matt has been moonlighting as Hell's Kitchen's Crimson Shadow since the third season of the last show, which was 6 years ago in this world. Some habits die harder than others. Murdock, ever the dual-natured savior, races across the rooftop highway. How does Matt swap his suit for the iconic red call mid-sprint? Welcome to the MCU, where nanotech suits materialize faster than a New York minute. Meanwhile, in a shadow-drenched apartment, gloved hands pick a lock with surgical precision. A fly alights on a flickering bulb and meets its end via a half-unbent paperclip projectile. Ah, bullseye. Benjamin Poindexter, better known as Dex, the ex-FBI agent turned psychopathic baddie, played by the mesmerizing Wilson Bethel. His grin is all the warning we need. Chaos is back on the menu, boys. Daredevil arrives at Foggy's apartment only to realize the trap. The break-in was a ruse to lure Foggy out into the open. He pivots, racing back to Josie's as Bullseye's crosshairs settle on the bar. A gunshot cracks. Foggy collapses, crimson blooming across his shirt as Karen screams pierces the night. Two off-duty cops charge outside and drop like marionettes with severed strings. Bullseye strides through the evening fog, a spectre clad in SWAT gear and malice, and lobs a smoke grenade into the bar. He corners Karen, who, trembling but defiant, fumbles for a pistol in her purse. "Hello, Karen," he purrs, raising his gun, until Daredevil swoops in like a crimson comet, tackling him through a window and erupts into a maelstrom of shattered glass and flying fists. What follows is a ballet of brutality. Bullseye hurls knives with lethal artistry, each blade finding flesh as Daredevil counters with acrobatic ferocity. Back and forth they go, a carnage-laden brawl. Very nice, much wow. Patrons scatter, bodies fall. Their brawl spills from room to room. Knives fly, people die. Their duel crescendos on a rooftop, where the city's skyline bears silent witness. Daredevil gains the upper hand and pins Bullseye to the rooftop edge. Below, Karen cradles Foggy, pleading for him to stay alive.
No, Misty, don't go, Misty.
But Foggy's breath stills, his eyes glazing over as he succumbs in Karen's arms. Bullseye's laughter curdles the air, unhinged and triumphant. Grief-stricken, Murdock hurls Bullseye off the edge, into the void. A moment of raw fury that costs him his moral high ground. Karen sobs over Foggy's body. Matt tears off his mask, hurling it into the dark as Detective Cherry stumbles in. The truth detonates. Hell's Kitchen's angel of justice is a grieving lawyer who just lost his North Star. The scene closes on a city forever changed. Foggy's death fractures the fragile trust between vigilantes and the law. Matt Murdock is left grappling with the cost of duality. The lawyer who defends justice by day and doles it out by night. But in a world where villains don't stay dead and allies don't stay safe, one question lingers. can Daredevil survive the weight of his own legacy? New York's pulse has shifted. Matt Murdock, now a spectre of his former self, carries Foggy's funeral program like a talisman, its braille inscription a silent vow. Across town, Wilson Fisk, the Kingpin of crime, played beautifully by Vincent D'Onofrio, dines on egg whites and asparagus. A man reborn, or at least rebranded. His hiatus, a healing sabbatical after Echo's Native American ancestral magic forced him to confront his childhood trauma. But Vanessa Fisk, his wife turned crime empress, hasn't been idle. In his absence, she streamlined his empire into a bulletproof machine, laundering ambition through legal loopholes and cold calculation. At the clandestine meeting of crime families, Vanessa Fisk commands respect, until Wilson Fisk strides in, a titan reclaiming his throne. The crime families respectfully stand up and leave, shocking Mrs. Fisk.
They respect the money I make them. Make them loyal.
Vanessa insists.
Loyal. Yeah, right.
Scoffs Fisk. His return isn't just about power, it's about legacy. With 25,000 signatures in hand, he's trading bloodstained suits for campaign buttons. The Kingpin is running for mayor. A perky reporter runs a BB report, where she interviews citizens drowning in civic despair. Crime's so bad you can't even go out with your family, one gripes. Never mind the Punisher's body count, Spider-Man swinging all over New York, and rumors of a new Vigilante. White Tiger. No, not that one. The city's cry is clear. Where's Daredevil? But Matt's hung up the cowl, retreating into the shadows of Murdock and McDuffie, a law firm that feels more like a confessional. Kirsten McDuffie, his new sharp-witted partner, nudges him towards closure. Or at least a date with Heather Glenn. A therapist Mcduffie tricks Matt into thinking he's a client, and Heather herself thinking Matt be a prospecting patient. Meanwhile in court, Bullseye's sentencing becomes Matt's pulpit. He gives a speech about how punishment isn't justice. Justice can never be served because Foggy is dead and won't come back. His speech a muddled cocktail of grief and survivor's guilt. Let's pause. If justice hinges on resurrection, why punish anyone? Matt's logic is as frayed as his soul. The judge hands Bullseye life without parole, but the victory rings hollow. Karen Page, now a San Francisco exile, is confronted by Matt post-verdict. The argument crackles with unresolved tension, a friendship fractured by loss and unanswered calls. Matt says, "This is a shame, a tragedy ruined everything." She asks him about Daredevil. He replies that Daredevil is gone. Fisk's campaign headquarters buzzes with unlikely energy as they juggle viral TikToks and focus groups. We are introduced to Sheila Rivera, his no-nonsense campaign director, and Buck Cashman, his doomed right-hand man. The right-hand men of Fisk tend not to be long for this world. Sheila says Fisk's methods and staff are refreshingly unconventional, but they are still considered a dark horse in the race. She is interrupted by Daniel Blake, a junior staffer whose earnest charm masks ambition, played by Michael Gandolfini, son of the late James Gandolfini, who portrayed Tony Soprano in The Sopranos. Blake informs her that Fisk is going viral on social media and was even covered in the BB Report, the show we saw earlier, and that Fisk is kinda the people's favorite. Fisk tells Blake he's impressed with his enthusiasm and asks him why Blake, as a young person, would vote for him.
You get stuff done.
Blake gushes to Fisk, echoing a generation raised on anti-hero worship.
You made stuff happen for yourself, and now you're making stuff happen for New York.
But Fisk's real ace? Vanessa. Her Machiavellian genius rebrands his empire through her legal overhauls, masking their criminal roots and funding Fisk's populist campaign. Even Detective Jerry, now Matt's investigator, admits defeat.
Half the NYPD kisses his name,
and the other half's cashing his chicks. The BB Report again, showing people talking about the rumor that Fisk crushed a man's head. Matt confronts Fisk on the street and requests an audience. Fisk obliges. In a scene dripping with noir tension, Matt and Fisk share a booth at the Greasy Spoon. They trade barbs and veiled threats over coffee, their history a third occupant at the table. Fisk assures him he was not involved in Foggy's murder and kept his promise to not hurt Murdock's friends. I heard Echo shot you in the face, Matt quips. Fisk chuckles.
Kids these days.
The conversation pirouettes between veiled threats and mutual respect. Fisk claims redemption. Matt scoffs, you're gaming the system. But when Fisk asks why Matt retired the mask, the truth spills out. A line was crossed. Fisk, ever the manipulator, counters with empathy.
Violence is a hard habit to quit.
When Murdock warns Fisk that he will retaliate if he steps out of line, Fisk counters that there will be consequences if Murdock resumes his activities as Daredevil. They part with a truce as fragile as a grenade pin, two predators circling, waiting for the other to flinch. Matt's attempt at normalcy, a second date with Heather, plays like a rom-com directed by Hitchcock. They bond over McDuffie's meddling and mental health advice, yet as they stroll through Hell's Kitchen's decay, the city intrudes. Radios blare Fisk's landslide victory. At Fisk's victory party, champagne flows, but Vanessa's glare chills the room. Fisk confronts her about an affair, his voice a velvet threat.
Don't kill him,
She warns.
I'm not that man anymore.
He lies. People cheering in the streets as videos of Fisk are played on TVs in shop windows. Calm down, he's just been elected mayor, not president. The episode closes on twin silhouettes. Kingpin Fisk, mayor-elect, stands triumphant on the edge of the roof overlooking the city and basking in adoration. A wolf in sheep's wool poised to redefine lawful evil. Matt walking through the crowded street shrouded in doubt. A hero questioning his relevance in a city embracing wolves in suits. But the city streets don't care about moral quandaries. As a woman's scream pierces the crowd, Matt hesitates, his fists clenching, a devil itching to resurrect. He glances up at Fisk's silhouette, a king surveying his kingdom, and the camera freezes. The camera lingers on Fisk atop a skyscraper, bathing in the city's adoration, while Matt drowns in its chaos below. Oh, where do we even begin with this mess? Let's dive right into the delightful quagmire that is Disney's latest obsession with swapping races and genders like it's a game of Guess Who. Get ready because it's about to get as entertaining as a botched high school play. First of all, Disney advocates will quickly start throwing insults your way the second you dare criticize this. They'll pull out the classic racist sexist card, entirely missing the point. It's not about the changes themselves, but the utterly shallow, performative reason behind them. Disney isn't hoisting minorities aloft out of some noble urge to right historical wrongs. They merely care about being seen as doing so. They're not out here fighting for the underdog or trying to make the world a more inclusive place. They're just looking to slap a shiny woke veneer on their decade-old formula. This isn't about representation, it's about optics. It's virtue signaling so blatant it might as well come with a neon sign. Let's break this down. If Disney really cared about elevating minorities, wouldn't they be giving us fresh, original stories about those communities? Instead, they've chosen to squeeze minority characters into pre-existing white-dominated narratives. It's less like inclusion and more like algorithmic tokenism. Why create new, nuanced minority characters when you can just repaint existing ones and cash in on social media applause? Remember Tiana's cancelled series? Remember that? It was supposed to be a celebration of a strong, black female lead. Except it got cancelled faster than you can say misguided virtue signaling. Case in point, in this show we meet Kirsten McDuffie, a black woman who steps into Foggy's shoes after his death as his successor. Matt and Karen laugh at Foggy's attempts to woo or banter with her because she is intellectually his superior. A black woman outsmarting a white man? Groundbreaking. She's presented as the best district attorney Matt has ever seen. While competence isn't the issue, the optics of replacing a beloved white male with a black woman amid corporate fanfare reeks of box ticking, not storytelling. If only Disney cared half as much about writing original minority characters as they do about tokenizing existing ones. Where's a Wakanda political thriller that's actually about a Dora Milaje? Where's a Nigerian Disney princess? Or an Afro-futuristic space saga? Who needs authentic stories when you can just slap a melanin filter on Snow White and call it progress? But hey, at least we got a black Irish lawyer to women-splain legal jargon. The subtle art of turning characters into caricatures of virtue. Bravo Disney, diversity win. Let's add some more meat to that stew. Minority superiority doesn't stop there. Karen, gone! Replaced by Detective Cherry. A black upgrade outshining Karen in every conceivable way. Because Disney's hierarchy of oppression now ranks race above gender. Congrats fellas, your worth is now measured by how many minority checkboxes you tick. Subtlety at its finest. But the real gut punch, the systematic emasculation of the male leads. Because of course, why have strong men when you can have emotionally broken ones? Take Matt Murdock. He's no longer the gritty badass vigilante we've come to love. Nope. Now he's a shell of his former self. A sad, pitiful man who chooses to walk away when a woman screams for help. And let's talk about Matt's charming transformation into whiny, emotional, unstable beta male. Once a former womanizer, now mopes through therapy dates arranged by McDuffie. Nothing screams role model like needing help from the women around him to pick him up out of the pit of despair he finds himself in. And while we're on the topic of emasculation, a similar thing happens, twice, with Kingpin, Marvel's Colossus of Crime. In the past, this man was a menacing force, but oh, now we get a sad, pathetic version of Fisk. After being emotionally violated by Echo in her solo show, Fisk spends months off-screen crying about it while his wife, Vanessa, takes over his empire and fixes it in a weekend while running a side hustle as a trauma-informed CEO. She literally becomes the untouchable Kingpin, while Fisk's begging her to take him back. Because nothing says intimidating villain like a man who takes sabbaticals to cry over childhood memories. Real men process feelings, folks. But hey, that's Disney for you. They love a good role reversal, as long as it means tearing down the men who once stood strong. Feminism at its finest. And then they also give Fisk a campaign manager who spends the whole time telling him what to do and how to do it. Of course, Fisk can't handle the pressure and let someone else run the show. What happened to the menacing Kingpin we all knew and loved? I guess he's too busy crying in a corner somewhere, hoping his wife will come back to save the day. How absolutely thrilling. What a threatening villain. The show's tone is a roller coaster that forgets to drop. The show is framed by sweeping shots of New York City so gorgeous it makes Batman weep with envy. It's artistic, moody, evocative, think Ghost in the Shell vibes with a Marvel twist. Very nice, much wow. But here's the thing, this isn't Batman, and the sure as hell ain't Ghost in the Shell. It's Daredevil, and that means action and intensity. The premiere opens with a jaw-dropping brawl between Daredevil and Bullseye, so brutal you'll swear Netflix secretly directed it. It is the most exciting thing that happens in the entire episode. Sure, the CGI knives look like they were rendered on a Nokia 3310, and the fight choreography is a little too rubbery. But who needs realism when you got vibes? And then the time skip happens. And suddenly the show goes from mildly interesting to painfully dull. What follows the time skip? The show pivots to municipal politics. Fisk runs for mayor, Matt drinks coffee. It's House of Cards meets Law and Order SVU. Thrilling, riveting, I can barely contain my excitement. The show goes from high energy brawl to an extended episode of The Wire. And I can't help but wonder, was this really the direction they thought was going to make the show better? Where's the Daredevil action we all know and love? The remaining 45 minutes is a snooze fest of campaign slogans and awkward dates. Daredevil isn't just born again, it's midlife crisis coded, trading adrenaline for Zoloft prescriptions. If only they had invested in more vigilante scenes and less of this tedious character development. And let's not ignore the massive elephant and peacock In the room, Foggy's death. The man who was practically the beating heart and soul of the original series just dies, and it's dealt with the emotional weight of a deleted tweet. 1 minute he's cracking jokes, the next he's a corpse used as a plot device to make Matt sad. A seismic shift, right? So naturally, Disney shows us none of it, nothing. His absence isn't felt, it's an emotional void the show expects us to retrofit with memory. The writers chose to skip over the entire process of Matt mourning his best friend's death, skipping the grief, the rage, the actual character development. Instead, we leap past, landing squarely in Matt's post-mourning malaise, sighing like a teen grounded from prom. Imagine what could have been, a pivotal season tracing Matt's descent after losing his best mate. The raw anguish, the moral spiral, the soul-crushing choice to abandon his crusade, all skipped for a time jump and some expository hand-waving. It's criminal negligence of character development, a missed chance so glaring it's practically taunting us. Disney decided emotional depth was too messy, so they fast-forwarded to the part where Matt's already numb. Why build a story when you can lean on a crutch of "he's sad now, trust us bro"? This show could have been so much more, and by all accounts, it should have been. A few tweaks here and there could have turned it into a masterpiece. Instead, what we got was a half-baked drama that barely clings to the promise of its predecessors. Sure, they're trying hard, but you can feel the lack of genuine heart underneath all the performative changes and unnecessary filler. So, is Daredevil Born Again a misunderstood masterpiece? Hardly. It's a glitter-covered dumpster fire, spectacular to watch, but you'll regret sticking around for the smell. So, to wrap this up, Daredevil Born Again wobbles between gritty promise and corporate artifice, a series at war with itself. On one side, broken men, cloaked in noir ambience. On the other, performative diversity and character assassination, masquerading as progress. An obsession with tokenism swaps races and genders like a magician pulling scarves, mistaking optics for innovation. It might look progressive on the surface, but the reality is that it's all smoke and mirrors. They're not interested in telling authentic stories or fostering real representation. They're just trying to check boxes and claim moral superiority, all while dismantling their own legacy. Bravo, Disney. Keep patting yourself on the back while you tear down the characters we actually cared about. And the character castration of the male leads. Murdock, once a brooding force of justice, now mopes through therapy dates orchestrated by women. Fisk, the Undercity's apex predator, is reduced to a sniveling ex-husband, begging Vanessa for scraps. Since when does the Kingpin need a sabbatical to process trauma? A villain's power lies in unyielding menace, not vulnerability workshops. Even Foggy's death is botched, treated as a plot device to justify Matt's sulking rather than a seismic emotional event. The show skips past grief entirely, opting for a jarring time jump that drops the story off its heart. Tonal whiplash seals the deal. A brutal brawl between Daredevil and Bullseye erupts with Netflix-era ferocity, only to crash into a snooze-inducing dive into municipal politics. Fisk's mayoral bit and Matt's caffeine-fueled angst drain the series of momentum, swapping bone-crunching stakes for bureaucratic drivel. Those sweeping shots of New York? Gorgeous, sure, but they don't belong in a show about a street-level hero. Style over substance isn't the vibe, it's a cry for help. Yet, buried under this mess, glimmers potential. Cox and D'Onofrio remain electric, their scenes crackling with unresolved history. Murdock's struggle to reconcile justice with vengeance could anchor a gripping revival, if Disney would just let him fight. Instead, we get romantic walks and #friendly growth. Diversity when done right enriches stories. Here, it's a corporate mandate, grafted on like cheap decals. A neutered Kingpin isn't subversive. It's a paradox. True reform for Fisk would be his ultimate corruption arc, not tearful therapy. Born Again needs to ditch the civic opera and return to Hell's Kitchen's grime. Let Daredevil's fists, not focus groups, drive the narrative. Redemption in this universe isn't earned over espresso. It's clawed from back alleys, one broken bone at a time. Disney's real crime isn't ambition. It's creative bankruptcy. Is there hope? Maybe. Recenter street level stakes. Let villains be villains. Swap checklists for authenticity. Until then, Born Again remains a case study in how not to revive a legacy. A show so busy patting itself on the back for progress, it forgets to tell a story worth cheering for. In Hell's Kitchen, redemption is a dish best served bloodied. But let us know what you think. Agree, disagree, voice your verdict below. Is Born Again a phoenix or a stillborn? Smash that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell for more deep dives. Your take might shape our next critique. Until then, keep your canisters of Super Soldier Serum close and your remote closer. Thanks for watching. Stay sharp, true believers.